Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Christy T. Jones, and I have the pleasure of serving as Miss Fulton County 2022 as a part of my platform Ready, Set, Go, Career Awareness and Preparedness. I have the pleasure of interviewing different entrepreneurs and business leaders around the state of Georgia to do career exploration sessions on Thursdays. And today I have the distinguished pleasure of interviewing Miss Jane Powell. Ms. Jane, thank you so much for joining us. Jane Powell is the owner of Costumes, etc. So we are going to learn about costuming today and just her wonderful career. So Jane, thank you for joining us. If you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to start Costumes, etc.
I started making my own clothes at 13 years old just because I wanted to be different from everybody else. But because there was no design school in Atlanta in the 60s, I took a different path, wasn't very happy, went back to school at 32 to learn design. I had a 3-month old, but you really have to follow your passion. And so my passion was clothing, and I always thought because I'd worked in um, my previous job was in fabric and doing fashion shows for fabric to show what people could make out of it. So I had a department where we made the clothing, chose fabric from different manufacturers, made them, and did fashion shows so people could imagine what they could make with those fabrics. And that's when I decided I just needed to go back to school. I needed to not be sort of in retail fabric, but in just something else that was more creative. And so I went back to school for 2 years and learned, pattern drafting, fitting body types, draping, um, everything that I thought I needed. I already had a degree from Georgia State, so I wasn't interested in getting another degree. And um, took an internship with a costume shop, and that's what really said, this is a really good fit. This is who I am, is a costume person. And the rest is sort of history. You always think when you work for other people, I can do this better. And people always tell you, at that time, Atlanta had about 4 or 5 different costume shops. And they said, well, Atlanta doesn't need a costume shop. And I said, I don't want to do anything else. And I can't right now do anything else but costuming. That's what I want to do. So I didn't listen to everybody who told me I would fail. Um, I had to trust my skills, and I started in theater first. So, I mean, when you're going into costuming, you just have to decide what field you want to do. And if you volunteer for theater or to be a PA or an assistant to a wardrobe or person or a stylist person, um, you get to see different avenues that you can travel. So through my theater work, I met somebody who was a makeup artist and stylist. And so I got to see what it was like working on set. In Atlanta at that time, there were only industrial films being made here. And Georgia Pacific, there were only like 2 good film studios, which changed a lot. Um, and so that gave me a taste of that. That wasn't really up my alley. Um, the hours are really long. So with a family, that was difficult because you could work 12 hours, you could work overnight, and it just um, wasn't my thing. I liked having more control over my atmosphere. And that's one thing I would tell people is think about who you are and what kind of atmosphere you want to work in. Because I know I'm skipping ahead, but you have to decide what feeds your soul. Who are the people you want to surround yourself with? I wanted to choose the people I worked with. So in the film industry, you can't choose all the people you work with. And and it's a mixed bag every time you do. Um, so this owning my own store was really the best avenue for me.
So you talked about you gave several great tips and gems. So I want to talk about a few of those things. So one, you mentioned working as a production assistant. I actually worked as a production assistant in Rio de Janeiro for the Olympics. And when I say I
Yep,
have such a huge respect for PAs, like the work that they do the dirty work, the hard work on set,
they
and
do.
it really is a way to learn every part of the industry and know like what is for you and what's not for you. So I wanted
Right.
to know about how has the costuming industry changed from the 60s to present day? Like what are some of the new changes that you've seen?
Well, I really started doing it in the 80s.
Okay.
I mostly got into the clothing industry. I worked with department store Riches, which was a really big department store in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out doing the garments, making the garments there. It wasn't until the 80s that I got into costuming.
Okay.
Um, so there's been a huge change in um, just the way people do business. Um, Theater houses, costume houses that provided stuff for theater were everywhere. And they're not now because people are doing more things internally. Um, there's not a lot of money. People are not funding local neighborhood theaters. They're not funding schools. So the rental business, which was where I started, was in rental. Um, it that avenue has really diminished. And that's one thing I would suggest to young people who are starting their business is you have to look around you. And what I realized, and join organizations that help you. So I joined an organization called the National Costumer Association, and it was all costume shop owners. And so you get sort of the temperature of people who are older than you and people that are younger. And the older people have a harder time changing. And so you have to learn to pivot. That's what that's one of the is you have to kind of not stay in your zone constantly, that you don't notice what's changing around you, because that's going to dictate whether you're going to survive or not. So I just 2001 was the big challenge. I can remember seeing in 2001, I had a TV in my costume shop. So that's the first thing I do. When I get there early and get ready to open, I turn the TV on and I saw the planes go into the tower on TV.
Mm,
Oh my God. That it rocked everybody's world. And at that point, it closed down shops. People were afraid, and individual costume shops started closing then. I made it through that. And then you have to kind of rethink, okay, what worked during that time period and what didn't work for you. So you have to um, analyze that and be able to pivot. And the people who delay, they lose their businesses
mm,
because they think they can keep operating the way they always did, and you can't. You just can't. You have to look at your demographic, see what they're doing, and try to decide what direction who your audience is. Because I always have to go back to theater. Who's your audience?
mhm,
Who do you want to entertain when they come in your business? Who are you going to inspire? Who are you going to speak to? Who are your gifts going to speak to when they walk into your store? And that's going to be whether you're able to hold on to or not. Is you've got to decide, can you create a product that's going to have a large audience to keep you going?
mhm,
And so that was my viewpoint, um, and constantly figuring up your game. So like 2001, 2007 was the recession, right before, again, September, 2 months before Halloween, the recession. it got really bad before the Halloween, and, but people like to be entertained when they're going through hard times. So, other people were cutting back during that time, and my assessment was that I didn't need to come back. I needed to move forward in a different direction because the people during the recession that were gonna have money, I had to cater to those people to attract that crowd. So I carried a higher end. I went to the people that could provide me with a higher quality so I could fill a void that I'd had in the past, which was sort of a median dollar amount. I went to a median to a higher dollar amount, and I came out the better for it. Um, and that helped my business grow because I attracted a different clientele. Besides, and I'm talking not theater people, but the general public. And then in the 80s, we were looking at rappers. So one of the things you asked me were who I enjoyed working with client wise. And it's not always who you work with because a lot of these people you don't meet. Stylists and wardrobe people will come in and with a picture and say, "Can you make this?" So I made things for Alton Brown on the Food Network. When he was in the Thanksgiving parade, he was in my pilgrim outfit. A couple years ago, when he did Thanksgiving, he wore my turkey suit. And then in the 80s too, I had the Goody Mob, who I never met, but I met their stylist. And so she was so happy with what we helped her produce because stylists need help too to think outside the box. Um, and costuming is not current day costuming or wardrobe is totally different from costuming. And they were doing something totally different, which was my wheelhouse. And so we worked together to work on one of their CD covers. And she gave me a photograph when she returned everything and said, "Oh my God, it went so well. I wanted you to have a picture of it." And so later on, when CeeLo and his band members came in because they got Sergeant Pepper's through us,
Hmm.
I got them to sign to sign that picture, which was kind of cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Um, and then I've done some things for Shaq because he's so big. I had, I had somebody who came in recently who needed a cape, and I had made something for somebody who was 6'9", so they used my cape for something he's doing. I had Janelle Monáe come in, and she rented something that she wanted to use on one of her CDs. I don't know whether she ever did or not, but you knew she was gonna be big because she was just always so cool. She always looked like she does now. She had her own style. She was the one driving her look.
Hmm.
She was not she
Hmm.
was styling herself. Um, because a lot of this was before she was famous when she would come in and look. So that was cool. Um, and Big Boy, a lot of rappers because we worked with rappers beginning in the 80s. So that was fun. So um, I got to do the fun stuff, and the stylists had to do the hard work because they had to deal with the egos and their timetable.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Uh,
you answered quite a few of the questions, so I'm just going to skip around. So you spoke about the challenging part of your job is kind of the ebbs and flows, the different waves of like having to deal with
right.
recession and even like dealing with COVID. How is that for your business? Like I know
Uh,
you said people like to be entertained when they're going through tough times, and the pandemic is still a tough time for a lot of people. So how are you able to keep people uplifted during that time?
um, we went like a lot of people, where you would pick up at the front door. And we also, because we are sewers, we're stitchers, we made masks.
Mm.
And so we kept alive from people buying masks. And then I do embroidery. I have an embroidery machine, so I thought, well, I'm gonna do logos on them. So I did Superman and Batman, and people really liked those. And I modeled them after, instead of the one they sold online, I modeled mine after um, the 3M mask. The shape of it was the same as the 3M mask. Um, so we cranked hundreds of those out, and gave a bunch of them away because there are a lot of veterans organizations that need them. So while you're sitting around waiting for your business to open back up, um, you have to figure out what you're going to do. And then people started saying, well, I want to do things with my immediate family. And they would try to pick fun things up that they could do with their family. Um, it was and one of the things we had talked about when we first met was Invest Atlanta was the PPP loan, and Invest Atlanta were instrumental in keeping us open because my mom did my books when I first started. Everybody's family, when somebody starts a small business and you have no money, you put everybody in your family to work.
Mhm.
And so my mom did my books, and she said, don't ever spend all your money. You need to start saving money so that if you have a crisis or an emergency, you don't have to close your door in 2 months.
That's a word. Yes.
It is. It really is. She said, um, don't spend all the money you have because you just have to be aware that you don't want to borrow a lot of money if you don't have to. Because she came from the Depression era.
Mhm.
And so she made me real careful with my money. And when the pandemic came, I had enough to keep my staff, my core staff. I had to let my part-time people go, but I kept my core staff and had enough money to pay my rent for 6 months, which is a good bit. And then with Invest Atlanta, that helped me provide the PPP and air purifiers so that I could start in June letting people back in the store. So it's hard to navigate because I know that you talk about your mental well-being. That's very important for you, and it's important for me too. And that's one reason why I went to a small business rather than a large business, because I wanted to surround myself with people that were positive. Because when you work in a corporate setting or you start your own business and you're surrounded by multiple people, there's always um, there's always going to be somebody that's negative. I
Mhm.
can't have that negative energy around me.
Yeah.
I have to have people that want to work together as a team and don't feel like because somebody else shines that diminishes who they are.
Mhm.
Everybody
Practice
has their
their own syndrome.
expertise. Everybody has their strengths. And so when I would hire somebody, they weren't always what I wanted them to be, but you had to look at, well, where do they fit in? What is their value to me? And so a lot of times people that I would have hired for one thing, I liked them so much, and I think that they had a good work ethic and a good moral compass. The things that I value with the people I work with and surround myself with, that those were the type of people I wanted to keep around me. So you just kind of have to figure out, okay, that's not his wheelhouse. Maybe this is where he belongs because this is what his strong suit is. And then you have to figure out how you're going to handle that other thing that they don't do well and who can pick up the slack for that. It's constant juggling. Um, but for my mental well being, it's to have everybody care about everybody else as much as they care about themselves.
Mhm.
And when somebody needs space, you have to figure that the people around you are going to take up your slack. So you have that mental health day. So when they need it, you need to step up and cover for them when they're being emotionally challenged,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
happens to all of us. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure as a leader, just even though like I've been to your store, it's large to me. I know you said it's a small business, but all the people there, I can tell that they really enjoy working there and they enjoy what they're doing. So I think that is a testament to you and the culture that you set for your for yourself. So before we close our interview, I wanted to ask you. You talked about earlier the power of pivoting, and I thought that was so divine because last week Charlene Salter Legend, who I interviewed, also talked about pivoting. So when you're an
Uh,
entrepreneur, um, how do you maintain that sense of resiliency to keep going when like you're faced with challenging times?
I get inspired by my customers. So, and really, I'm almost 70, so I'm going to be retiring soon. Um, but I've already thought about, what I would do to change this business. Because you come in and you see what the youth are doing. For
Mhm.
me, they're younger than my kids. Um, and so I talk to them to find out, what is it you're doing and what are you looking for and what inspires you. And I look at their way they dress, I look at their hairstyles, I look at all kinds of things because everybody that is a performer that comes in, they speak to me with their own self about what they're thinking about. And so that's how you get inspired. You get inspired by and then you can inspire them. I had a young man come in who is in the music industry and he's just getting started and wants to do a video. And um, I said, "Well, did you see this show on PBS?" or, or my brother who works with me, he's a musician. And he said, "Well, what kind of music are you interested in?" And so they found a common ground in music. And then he said, "Well, you're young. Have you heard this group and this group and this group?" And the guy said, "No." And my brother said, and he's 70. He said, "Well, they're young guys coming out of LA and they're doing this and this and this." And the guy's writing all this stuff down. And so I think that it's the joy of working with people and liking people and learning from people. Never stop learning. I think that's the
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. So
Makes you old if you stop learning.
I'm so glad you shared that with us. So, our last question, do you
Mhm.
have anything else you would like to share with the audience before we close our interview?
I've talked to a design class at one of the art institutes. And when you listen to what they want to do, they want to make millions. 1% of people that start in business have that have that success.
Mhm.
And I've been doing this for 35 years and I've made a good living. Have I made a fortune? No, I haven't made a fortune, but I've been able to take care of my family. I've been able to do the things I want to do. And, I do what I love. I make a living doing what I like to do. And that sometimes just has to be enough. If you can do all that other stuff, I'm so proud. But if you don't give up. There are always niche areas that you can do what you love and make a living. So don't feel like you have to give up just because you don't hit that height. That's what because small businesses are the backbone of our country, and they're the inspiration for a lot of these people who are making zillions.
That's true. That's so true. So, I would like to say thank you so much for coming and just interviewing with me today. I just really enjoyed talking with you and just learning more about costumes, etc., and how it was created. So, on behalf of all of us at the Miss Fulton County organization, thank you. And I wanted to know, is there any way we can follow you on social media or follow costumes, etc.?
I'm terrible with that, and I did had somebody who did it for me, and we've kind of dropped that ball. The pandemic has hit us like it has everybody with staffing issues, and, I'm just starting to get back on that now, social media. But if people are local, if my costume shop possibly will close by the end of the year just because I wanna retire. This is the last real costume shop in Atlanta, and people should just come see it. It's just if you have an imagination or you have a passion for creativity, even if you're not a costumer, it's just the coolest place.
It really
It just
is.
it just is.
It really
And
is.
everybody here loves having new people in. You don't have to come in and buy anything. Just come in for the experience.
Awesome. Yeah, so
Thank you for having me.
yes, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. And then could you just tell us the address so people will know
It's,
where to go?
2138 Faulkner Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30324.
Yes, and Miss Jane helped me with my 70s outfit for Miss Georgia's forum. So thank you so much, Miss Jane. Again, it was such a pleasure seeing you again, and I just wish you all the best and congratulations on your soon-to-be retirement.
And I wish you the best and much success, and I'm excited about what you do, and I was excited to learn what you've studied and the things that the future holds for you. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.